Hello. Hello, everyone. How are you today? It's Wednesday and it's 7 o'clock. Where has the time gone, right? Uh, I've just decided I'm in a time warp. I've just decided I'm in a time warp. N- I mean, I know today's Wednesday. It doesn't feel like Wednesday. It doesn't feel like 7 o'clock. I don't know if you all are experiencing some kind of challenging uh, timelessness or time, um, like perception of time, the perceiving of time, you know? Um, there's, and like the stuff that I read about, there's a lot of talk of, timeline shifts, um, reality shifts, timeline jumping, all kinds of things like that. And I kind of almost feel like maybe the nebulous feeling that I'm having about time is almost kind of being in the in between. It's almost like on a map, and the line that's on the map that might say, to determine like between different countries or states or whatever. I almost feel like I'm on the line, right? So I don't know if you all are feeling that as well. Um, and it is what it is, right? As far as what are how we perceive time anyway. And I know for myself, personally, but then also kind of with conversations that I have with people and just kind of seeing everything that's going on in our collective in the world is that um, there are changes and shifts happening to where like the old way of considering things, the old way of thinking how things are, the old paradigm, whatever, are change. Those things are changing, and so it's almost like the ruler that one always used, the measuring stick, or the way of uh, calculating, tabulating, estimating, all of that seems like the tools are shifting, how the tools are used. And this is, kind of like metaphor, right? I'm not being literal. But I think that kind of plays into the concept of time and how maybe we used to see time, how time passes, or even milestones, what's expected, at a certain point in our life, at a certain age, whatever. That all of that is not as concrete or set in stone as we perceived it to be in the past. And that tells me that, I mean, obviously it's like time is not necessarily real in the grand scheme of things anyway. But of course, we've kind of agreed. There's been this agreement, this collective agreement on a set way that we keep track of things and we plan for the future, based on those formulas and ways of measuring. But I think that all of that is changing. And then lots of other things are changing too. And so I kind of like that's what I don't know if it's inarticulately have expressed over the last few minutes is kind of like why I would understand that how time is flowing and how things feel energetically, why that doesn't feel the same as it used to. And like I said, I kind of feel like I'm kind of in this in between. And I wonder, kind of astrologically, kind of, what influences of the cosmos are, kind of bringing up those themes or things in my life, in your life. Um, we're almost kind of in between seasons as well, right? It's like, is it summer? Well, it is still hot, but those evenings and mornings are getting a little cooler now, it's like we feel fall coming, but it's not quite here yet, right? So, Yeah, I definitely see that line on the map, not the road, but the lines saying this is one area, this is another area, and that's kind of where I feel I am. So I'm kind of curious as to where you all feel that you are in your life, on your timeline, in your reality, right? So, thank you for joining me here today. I do my best to go live every Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Sometimes I do pre record the videos and post those instead of going live. I think I'll be doing that next week. But live is me off the cuff, number one, no edits. And it's also an opportunity for anyone who, is with me here on the live to comment, to ask questions, anything like that. And it is kind of wonderful to have that community engagement as we're talking about weird stuff, right? I am going to do some tarot card pulls in a little while, but I kind of wanted to talk just a bit about the little bit of the astrology that is going on this week, kind of the remainder of the week. And I know when I first started doing these energy updates, I really wanted to look, a month or more out, which is helpful to do as well. But I think that kind of where I am personally, energetically right now, and just kind of really trying to stay present and stay current. It feels like talking about, what's going on now, but then what's coming up in the more immediate future seems to be more relevant. And of course, if you're watching this video and it's already been live and it was, in our kind of like the replay of the lives, then uh, you can see any information that has already kind of come to be, come to pass as at least a little bit of hindsight of kind of maybe some clarification as we're trying to understand maybe how or why things kind of happened or unfolded as they did in our life. Hindsight is amazing, isn't it? I mean, it would be we think it would be helpful to know the future, to know exactly all the minutia of what's going on in the present moment, but that hindsight always tends to make more sense of things when we have a bit of that perspective, right? Not always, but a lot of times it does, and I believe that the reason that that is kind of relevant and true is because the future has not happened yet. There are very strong energetic imprints and a trajectory that we are on. We do have free will and we have choice, and everybody else has free will and choice. And lots of things can kind of transpire in a multitude of possibilities in the future. And then when the future is not the future, but it's the present. But until it's in that moment and until it is happening, we don't really know how all the pieces are going to either fit together or how all of the pieces are going to contradict each other and have that friction or whatever. But I think that I've mentioned this before. I think I have on a live, and I know it's a conversation that I've had with people in person over the years. But I always like to look at our perspective, one's perspective as having the potential of zooming in or zooming out. Okay. And then I guess if you're just at like the middle ground of it is what it is, and this is really everything that's going on in the present moment from your vantage point, from your perspective, then that's the present moment. But we can always um, dial in our perspective almost as if we were looking through a microscope, right? We just get down like below, just the regular image, but we start getting down to all the components and the parts and again, like kind of metaphorically speaking, like the cells or the particles or, all those building blocks that you just keep zooming in, and you start to see like these whole other almost like universes, right? These other layers of reality that when we zoom out enough to where like, okay, like there's me, right? Like I'm a human in a human body, and it's not like all my cells or like my fibers of my muscles or, whatever, or my electromagnetic field, my aura. It's just like I'm a human, but then there are all these other parts that come together amazingly that make me even be perceived as tangible and physical, right? And then if we like zoom out, like we have a telescope, a very far reaching telescope, even, my humanness is just like not even a grain of sand, in all of the people and all of the different galaxies and parts of the universe, and then beyond the universe, layers of reality, the different planes of existence, even like, wow, there's a lot, right? And it's almost just like where you put your focus in that moment as to what part of quote unquote reality you are experiencing or observing, right? And ideally, we are an active participant in our reality, in our life, in our experience, um, anchored in the moment. But we also do want to let ourselves be an observer at times, um, and to kind of maybe just get sometimes a break, from the chaos of reality. Sometimes just to get a little, difference of perspective or experience as well. So, anyway, those are my ponderings today. These ponderings that just, this is what's in my head. This is the kind of stuff that's just floating around in my head. So let's talk about astrology. And it looks like, I've got notes, but then everything's kind of out of order. So let's talk about Mercury retrograde just for a second. Right now, Mercury is retrograde, but it is retrograde in Virgo. Okay. Virgo is an earth sign. It has to do or can do relate to order, our physical, kind of procedures, um, plans, systems, um, can be our health. But, kind of like governing any of those kind of categories or topics that are governing like on the earthly plane, right? It can also be kind of like our because Virgo being the sign of the Virgin, it can be kind of like our like ideal way of seeing things, or like the ideal, the perfect, pristine, non-jaded way, at looking at a situation or systems or other people or whatever, and kind of having this like, the perfect ideal optimal way of looking at that, right? Maybe. And sometimes that can come manifest in a kind of judgy, being judgy, right? Because if it's not perfect, well, it's not right. But if it's not perfect, it is what it is. And how do we, again, with measuring, I feel like that's kind of like a word or a theme for tonight. It's like, how do we measure perfection? Like, is it your own personal, your standards, your expectations? Is it societal? Is it based on your upbringing? What is it like? When you have certain expectations or standards as far as, let's just say, perfection goes, whose whose system of judgment or measuring are you using? It should really just be yours, right? But we do have a lot of influence out there as far as, you know, our thoughts and opinions are definitely easily influenced by lots of things. So Mercury is currently retrograde in Virgo, but on the 14th, because it is retrograde, it will move back into Leo, and the sign of Leo. And so, kind of like this first half of Mercury retrograde, we have hopefully had an opportunity to be a little bit of in that kind of inventorying, or, getting things kind of settled and ordered, culling, clearing, um, prioritizing type energy. Okay. As we've reviewed, um, how we spend our time, how we communicate, how others communicate with us, how we maybe let people communicate, with us, how we let people talk to us, right? But then also understanding like the responsibility that we have to say, this is what I expect, right? Our expectations, this is what I deserve. Um, and I'm not saying that if someone speaks to you disrespectfully or they're rude or they're cruel, that it's your fault necessarily. I'm not saying that. But our vibration and our energy does have some kind of signature, or kind of sets the bar for what can even come into our reality, into our sphere, and then also like what would even resonate with us, right? Now, I am not saying that I don't get my feelings hurt and that I don't take things personally when it's like it really shouldn't matter. Um, but I am working on that. And I'm also, and have been for the last couple of years, really working on boundaries and expectations. And I know that that starts with me, energetically, mentally, physically, all of that. And it's really truly like, what do I want to experience? And what do I allow to even get like close to me, let alone share my life and energy with? And we're all empowered to do that. Now, with Mercury in retrograde and, us, kind of having that inventory of and that review, right? Because Mercury retrograde is wonderful for that. Also, universe kind of sending old past themes, people, patterns for us to go, oh, yeah, I don't want that in my present moment, or thank goodness that's in the past and I've moved on from that. Or, wow, I forgot about that. I'd like to revisit that. And I maybe need to prioritize that, right? But Mercury retrograde is wonderful for review and a brief revisiting. And so going back to, if there is someone, or situation, outside of you that is coming at you in a way that is not pleasant. It is rude, it is crude, it is cruel, it is upsetting, it's dismissive, it's whatever, a on the negative end of the spectrum, right? Um, that sometimes just in general perspective, but Mercury retrograde helps us realize that it's really not about us, even though we're observing it and we may be experiencing it or feeling the energy of that maybe it is more about the other person or situation just kind of projecting. And it happens to be close enough to us to where we might feel the shock waves of it, or it could be coming right at us, right? Or it could just really be that, we're one of many and there's lots of things going on and it's something that we just happen to see or experience. And maybe it's not about us at all. Maybe there is, instead of the what seems to be the apparent interaction or exchange, um, maybe there's a general theme that is like of the same energy, but it's not as specific as what you think it is. Meaning, let's just say that if someone is being argumentative, let's just say someone is being argumentative. And you're wondering, why is someone challenging you? Why are they arguing with you? Why are they not believing you? Why are they not respecting your boundaries, right? There are lots of questions that could come up just even with someone being argumentative with you. And of course, is it someone that you know? Is it someone that you've interacted with before? Is it a random stranger? Is it via email? Is it talking? Is it in traffic? Like what it is, right? There's lots of different components to that to kind of give yourself a little more understanding of the big picture. But even with all those questions I ask, like why? Like why is there arguing, going on? And it could be all of these different reasons why. And even despite all the different reasons, it might not again really have anything to do with you. It could be coming at you in a way that makes you feel you're uncomfortable, you feel attacked, you feel insulted, whatever it is. But then maybe you're arguing with yourself in your internal landscape, in your internal monologue, and it is something that manifested in the physical because there was kind of this energetic a similarity, right? Maybe not the same thing that you're arguing about, but a similar resonance there. And so it showed up in your external world as this is what arguing looks like. Like are you also experiencing that maybe, subconsciously, unconsciously, on autopilot within yourself, right? And what understanding, and I don't even want to say lessons, but like what understanding can arise from seeing that mirror, seeing that external experience, right? Even if someone is arguing with you and they're trying to pull you in and it seems like it is personal, it might not be. They could be themselves arguing with themselves and just trying to like work it out in the physical, right? In reality. So I think that being present is important, but then also being able to kind of shift into that observer, not only of your own thoughts and feelings, but of kind of having that objective vantage point helps. It does help in whether it's Mercury retrograde or not. But on the 14th of August, Mercury will shift into Leo, which Leo is a fire sign, right? We've had, Leo sun energy, going on this month. And so with the Mercury retrograde moving into Leo, it's going to be more of a review or a questioning. And I don't really mean that in a negative way, but just, asking questions about maybe like what ignites our passion? What are we passionate about? What are we proud of? And, how are we holding our head up high, or are we cowering? And, we can see this because Mercury governs communication. We can see this come up, in interactions with other people, or via communication. But, retrogrades are just so good, really, for introspection, your own personal, like a deeper, more underneath the surface review of where you've been, where you're at, and how you would like to set the course, correct the course, whatever, to head towards your next destination, your next experience, right? So, as you've thought about maybe ways to streamline or to organize or to be maybe more aware of your health, but also your criticisms of yourself or others through Mercury retrograde in Virgo, now we might be reviewing our priorities, reviewing the things that we came here to passionately experience, and make sure that things are in alignment so that when Mercury goes direct, at the end of the month, I think it's on the 27th. We'll still have a shadow period for a couple weeks, but when that mercurial energy, stations direct, and then it's like full steam ahead again. This time of pause, of slowing down, of introspection. I was like, all right, review time is done. It's now time to, get back on track and move forward. So you still have another couple of weeks, basically we're at that almost like the halfway point of Mercury retrograde. But we will be experiencing Mercury retrograde in Leo on the 14th. All right. Now, also, coming up soon after that is we're in between the new moon and the full moon. The full moon is on the 19th of the month, and it will be exact at 2:26 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So as the energy of the moon is growing, you can see it out, in the night sky. She looks like she's about halfway to full right now, and you can feel any any energies that you maybe thought about starting or putting into motion. It could be heartfelt desires, it could be actual intentions that you planted that intention and that seed around new moon time. Okay. um, or it could even be like last month's lunar cycle, right? Sometimes we have like a whole full circle from full moon to full moon too, right? But with your intention setting, with your manifesting, with your all of that, whether it was intentional or not, because we manifest regardless. Um, Spells, rituals, and magic, and vision boards just help us kind of hone in and focus a little bit, or a lot. But anyway, we're seeing the energy growing and kind of like what is has come up out of the ground, and like what flower is going to bloom. What even not only flower but fruiting are we going to be able to experience of these desires and intentions that we planted, at the new moon or the last lunar cycle or season, whatever it is. So we're seeing that increase, and we're feeling it, getting closer, right? That anticipation. Um, and also we have Mars in Jupiter in Gemini squaring with Saturn retrograde in Pisces on the full moon. And this square is squares when you have all of these planets that are, kind of like opposing, but then creating, 4 points that they're all connected and they're all interacting with each other. And so Mars in Jupiter, the planet of expansion. Okay. And it can be the planet of luck, but it's kind of just like making things bigger. And then Mars, the planet of passion, fire, fighting, loud and proud energy. So it could be expressing yourself, or others expressing themselves in large ways. It could be that. But stuff's brewing in various parts of the globe, right? Talking about, Mars governing um things things being explosive, either tempers or literally speaking. So there could be things that kind of blow up, and I'll just say that like figuratively speaking, and then however it manifests is it could, around the 19th when the square happens, because Saturn being retrograde in Pisces, Saturn's about like our karma. Saturn is about like our lessons, our hard lessons sometimes. And Pisces is a water sign. Pisces are the undercurrents, but then also kind of cycling through emotions or understanding a situation very swiftly, kind of burning through that energy swiftly. So I feel like with this square that there's a lot of potential for information, action, and then all of the undercurrents that are just as important, and like the lessons and understanding of the relevance of those lessons, that's all kind of coming to a head, here in less than a week. And we will feel the energy, and I think we're feeling it kind of building up into the square, and then the square is occurring, and then it's not just like everything switches off and then it's just back to normal, right? So we're already in this energy, and we will feel this energy this week. So I feel myself that all of these kind of like big changes, and even things that are going on that are happening that seem to be so upsetting, that seem to be so maybe unjust or wrong or scary, because it's like, well, this isn't how I thought things were, or I didn't think how it was going to go down, or whatever it is, that it's maybe very unsettling and unpleasant going through the disclosure time or the exposure time, of just like, it's like ripping the Band-Aid off, but then it's not just like, "Oh, this is a fully healed, wound." It's like, "Oh my god, there's all this stuff that we were ignoring for a long time, and this is gonna have to be dealt with," right? But then once you deal with it, once you're like, "Okay, really, what am I dealing with here? What is really going on?" Let's not just have one lie that supports another lie, that uh, you know, um another system that's just kind of barely held together by another system that isn't working, whatever. Like, when we just kind of go, okay, really, what are we dealing with here? Which, gosh, there's so many components, so it'd be kind of hard to maybe get down to the bottom of it. But we are trying to clear away the falsehood. We're trying to clear away the old, outgrown, or just gross stuff, and we're trying to say, it is time for a new energy, and that's what we're here for, right? It's just that middle part is sometimes messy, and sometimes scary, and sometimes upsetting, and sometimes confusing, and all of that. So anyway, hang in there, right? Um, and one other thing I wanted to just mention before I hopped over to doing the tarot cards, is that there was so much talk and hoopla, and we talked about this during the live, about the Lionsgate portal, the 8-8 portal, and when the ancient Egyptians were working with the Lion's Gate energy, Sirius and Orion and the Earth, and building the pyramids to be in alignment with all of this, and the Nile River, there was the astronomical alignment, then the Nile River, they knew that the season was coming, that the Nile River would flood and then bring all of this water and fertile soil to the land, and then that was like a blessing, even though it was an intense energy. That was a long time ago, right? And so the stars do have shifted as far as how we see them in the sky now, right? So when we look at the Lion's Gate astronomically and astrologically, we were in that portal energy. The portal is, kind of like closing down right now, right? But that's why there's kind of like a couple of weeks of that portal energy, because of that, the astrological and astronomical, alignments all coming together. But 8-8 itself also had the numerological energy of infinity, which is 8 on its side, three times, because of August being the 8th month, August 8th, and then 2024, 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 4 add up to 8. So it was 888, right? So we had the numerology in triplicate resonating just on that day, but the astrological and astronomical energies were kind of over a larger window. Okay. But if you really felt called to work with the Lionsgate energy, the 8-8 energy, which happens every year, right? There's always in August and always in August 8th. The numbers of the year don't always add up. But if you're feeling aligned to work with that energy a little more, even though the portal of the Lionsgate is kind of coming, to a close, we still have August 17th, which 1 plus 7 is 8. Okay. And then we have August 26th, which 2 plus 6 is 8. So if you wanted to, do work with that 888 energy, you still have 2 other dates coming up to work with that energy. Okay. Maybe you didn't get to do something, or meant to do something on August 8th, or, beforehand, and you're like, oh my God, I missed it. Well, you can still maximize the energy of August 17th and August 26th as well, which is pretty nice, right? 3 chances this month to work with that numerological vibration of 888. Okay. So, if no one has any questions or commentary, I am going to pull a couple of cards, and let me adjust over here real quick. Both of my cats are in my studio office room right now. I always close my door because I have 2 dogs at home as well, and my kiddo who is gaming while I'm doing this, so that, I'm free to just do this. And my cats are in here with me. Love from Norway. Let's see. Oh, awesome. That's amazing. Hello. Thank you for joining us. So we just have someone who commented, send love from Norway, first time here, which is fantastic. That's wonderful. I'm, as a lot of Americans, I have a very mixed ancestry, but I do have about, I think it's per my ancestry DNA, it's about 21 or 22% Norwegian. So I do have ancestor roots in Norway and in Sweden. So thank you for saying hello. Yeah. I didn't get any tall Scandinavian genes though. I'm only 5'2". So I'm short. But anyway, not that all Scandinavian people are tall, but they kind of are sometimes. So all right, so let's pull some cards. Let's see about just really strong energies that are coming through for us, the collective, everyone watching this live, everyone watching the video, once it is posted after the live. What is just some really important, pertinent, helpful information that can come through for us to navigate these energies, right? To navigate these waters, these cosmic waves, as we ride along them. And we are riding along the cosmic waves. We're all experiencing all of these nuances and energies, but we are the cosmos, right? And as in our human self and our human experience, we feel so separate from that. It's like I'm the ship captain on the boat, navigating along on the river, going to the ocean, whatever. Really, like, we just are the water, experiencing itself, just kind of rolling along. But we want to separate ourselves out, and we want to separate ourselves out like by several different degrees of separation too. It's perspective, but it's actually not the whole picture, right? So, all right, let's see. What do we need to know? I'm using the Ethereal Visions Tarot, the Luna edition. Again, it's not my favorite deck of all time, but it is my new favorite that I've been using a lot right now. I also do not have it here with me. It's at the shop, but I have this Spirit Song Tarot is very much a go-to deck for me. It's a beautiful tarot deck. But today we're using Ethereal Visions Tarot, the Luna edition. So let's see what we need to know. And we have, it's like my lighting's not great. Okay, we have the Artist. This is creating. You're peering into reality, and you're saying, how do I interpret this? How do I see this? How do I, how do I take what I see and the ideas that I have, and how do I want to express that? Whether you're inspired, whether you're, you need to translate, like what you're feeling, your vision, what you're seeing, and you kind of want to get it out on paper, right? Or on canvas. But this is, what you see, and then also how that gets transferred into something more of the physical. And I don't know, if any of you are watching, like if you are artists, if you like to draw, if you like to paint, you're creative. I'm definitely, that's me. But I remember being like so frustrated when I was younger, and I was like, well, I'm going to paint something. And I would have this feeling, but then I would have this vision in my head, of what I saw, right? And then it was like my skill level or my ability to then take the paint and the brush and all the techniques and put that out onto a canvas. I was like, I get started and I was like, this is absolutely nothing what I saw in my head. Right now with practice, and being able to basically use your hands and the tools, paintbrushes and different types of paint and all of these things, having more technique or skill helps you almost kind of like, it's a translation system for being able to have that vision or that feeling or that concept and get it down, and out into the physical, right? And to where maybe if you're so skilled, you could say, this is exactly what I saw in my head. And then this is my vision, right? Realized in reality. And sometimes I would get in the zone, and there's a term, it's called ecstasis, where it's just like you are the flow, you are in the flow, where I was trying, I had a picture and then I was painting or drawing and I wanted to do a copy of that, and just say, okay, this is my version of that, but it looks just like this picture or whatever it is. And sometimes I got pretty close and I was like, how did I do that? That's ecstasis. That's like you're so in the flow, like you're almost like on this in this magical autopilot, right? But then there were more times where I felt the lesson in it for me was, I have a concept, I have an idea, maybe I have some inspiration out there, if it's, I'm like, I like this part, I like that part. But I need to let that just be a springboard for what needs to flow through me, and me as this conduit and as this vessel of what I will create, right? And even if I had an idea or a vision in my head, for example, then and it how it was almost like transposed, like when you transpose music, or translated from one language to another, right? And it's like, and how it actually came out is how it actually was meant to come out. There were a couple of different versions along the way, right? And learning that, like, trusting and appreciating the creative process, is really, it's like it's more of like it's more about the journey and then not the destination, and maybe I created something that was beyond or even better than or different than I could conceive or perceive in my head, because maybe I hadn't experienced it yet. So when we look at this card and we look at how that can be applied to our life and the reality that we're creating, or what we want to surround ourselves with, whether it's physical things, things that bring us joy, things that we find beautiful, that we find relaxing, soothing, peaceful, or it's like the energy of like what we want to experience. So many times we might sell ourselves short and say, well, I've only been able to experience, or I can only imagine to a certain point of potential. But there's a whole lot more that is available to us. And just because we haven't experienced it, we might not even have an idea, right? But when we let ourselves be the creator, but we're being a conduit or a channel or a vessel for the cosmos and the universe to move through us. And it's almost like, wow, what magic flowed through me, then that is a very beautiful place to be as well. And we don't get in our own way. We don't second guess it. We don't say, oh, I messed up, or this isn't what I thought. And I mean, sometimes there are things where you're like, I have this idea, I have this concept, I want it to look just like this. And I'm going to perfect my skills, my ability to put that actually into motion, to make it look just like that or to turn out just like that, right? But as a creative person, which I know there are a lot of creative people out there, when we let ourselves be in the flow and we let ourselves be a vessel for that creation, it's almost like the universe gets a little more time to play. The universe has a little more wiggle room to say, surprise, I bet you didn't see this one coming, but look how fun this is. Look how amazing this is. And there you go. Then it's a gift, right? So that's beautiful. Okay, the artist. Let's see what else we get. And then we're like, "Bleh." Then we have the Page of Pentacles. Okay. But this is an energy. I made that face because he's introspection, but he could be a little sad. But this, I feel like, is speaking um to potential okay, to potential. And that sometimes the term that I'm getting is don't count your eggs before they hatch. And I know that like I used to hear that when I was growing up, and it was kind of it was like a warning, it was like, well, if you're planning your whole life based on that you have let's say a dozen eggs that are supposed to grow and hatch into chickens. And then you've already made plans for all 12 of those chickens. But then something happens and maybe all the eggs weren't fertilized or something, whatever. And you only have three hatch, or you have six hatch, or you have 10 hatch, but you've already based all of your formulas, all of your calculations on 12. Then you're so upset, you're so disappointed, right? But to me, I would like to look at that phrase, "Don't count your eggs before they hatch," with not I mean, we can look at it that way, that's one potential or possibility, but also the potential is, um, maybe you didn't maybe you don't need all 12 to have everything that you need to, get your project going, or, for the plans to move forward, or maybe it was time just to kind of enjoy that incubation and that growth and that whole important like gestation period of the chickens, or of the dream of the plan, whatever, that was just as important as what happens next. Because if you've ever raised chickens, or you've ever seen baby chickens or whatever, I have an incubator at home. I've hatched out chickens, I've hatched out quail, and I mean, the whole process is amazing. It is amazing, and it's it's so exciting when they start hatching, but you can hear them peeping before they even hatch out of their egg. You can hear them making like little noises, and then they start kind of pecking from the inside, and you're like, oh my gosh, are they going to hatch? Are they going to be okay? And then they start, the tiny little like a little hole or like a little crack, and then they finally work themselves out of that shell, and then you see them and they're tiny, but you're like, "How the heck did you fit in there?" I mean, they grew and grew and grew to where they had no more room in that shell. And then, they get all fluffy after they've been like all wet, inside the egg. And then, man, chickens and quail too, they grow so fast. They're this tiny little fluffy pee thing, and then before you know it, they're like kind of hopping around and starting to get like a little bit of air under their wings as their wings are coming in, and the process is very fast. But that sweet energy of even just nurturing the egg, and like like I have an incubator now that kind of turns the eggs, and it's on a timer and stuff. But the first one I had, it was like I had to twice a day, turn the egg, over. So it was never on the same side the whole time. And I would take a pencil and draw like a little X on one side so I knew like what side was what, right? And you've got to keep the humidity right, and the temperature, and all of the parts that are necessary for an egg, a fertilized egg, to keep maturing and growing and then eventually hatch. And there's something very beautiful about that process. And just so you know, it takes about 21 days for a chicken egg to hatch. From the time of you start putting it, you've got it in the incubator, and then it's growing. Well, that is a very important process too, and it's a little bit of an exercise in patience, but it's also a beautiful experience of nurturing, as well, and just excitement for like what is going to come out of that egg, because they're adorable little chickens. So when I look at this, that was my long tangent about Page of Pentacles. When we look at this, it's important to acknowledge like where you're at and what you have. And to have like that sense of like wonder and expectation about how that could grow, what you could build, with that pentacle. Pentacles are earth, pentacles are our money, our abundance, our our needs, being met, right? What makes us seem fulfilled in our earthly life. But it's also not just saying like, well, I just have, this one pentacle. It's a pretty big pentacle. And it's just saying that knowing that what you have, things are always going to morph and change, and there will be an evolution to it. But we experience each each moment within what we have, and we don't necessarily want to say, well, right in this moment, this is what I have, it's not what I need, or it's not enough, or oh, it's plenty, I'm sure it'll be fine. It's being anchored in the moment, working with what you have, but then just letting the natural process of growth and evolution also happen. And you can contribute to that, but you also have to trust the process as well. Okay. So let's pull another card and kind of see if we can like bring all of this together. And then we have the Queen of Swords. Okay. And the Queen of Swords is very much an energy um, of knowing what power, potential, wisdom, um, grace, ability that you have. It is embodying, it is embodying, um, queens are always like e- enjoying your status, enjoying your vantage point from your throne. Okay. But then also just saying, I bet I am deserving of that. I've either I am deserving of that because I am, the queen of the universe, or, I am a divine being, right, in a human body. Or I've earned it, or it's my birthright. There's kind of that energy to that of appreciating still and enjoying that that queen experience, but also knowing that it's just like, yes, this is just how it is. I am deserving of that. Like, of course, why would it be anything else? But there is also, she has, obviously, this is the Queen of Swords. She has a sword. Okay, she's being bathed in this, like, this incense smoke. Okay, there's a bit of sacredness to this. And there is the energy of air. Okay, this is an air card. And so this is reminding us that we or making us aware that our thoughts become our reality. How we carry ourselves and the energy that we embody, the words that we say, the words first and foremost that we say to ourselves, and then we communicate that to others, either out loud or via our energy, that really carries a lot of weight. That is a very strong energy of feeling, expressing, and then our reality becoming that, or our focus and intention being zeroed in on that energy, right? And it starts in the internal landscape. So I feel that, like, pulling this all together, and I'm going to pull an animal card as well. Let's see, I can never do this the right way. Okay, so we started with the artist, and then we have the Page of Pentacles, which is here, and then we have the Queen of Swords. I feel like that this is very much talking about keeping our awareness and our focus first and foremost on, like, our experience in the moment. And it's kind of like that check-in, like, how am I holding myself? How, like, what am I holding in my hands? What can I say is real, is true in this moment? Okay. And then all the other things that are going on outside of our sphere, we can say with objectivity, is this relevant? Or how does this affect me? What do I think about this? How do I feel about this? But still staying anchored and present, right? In our reality and our awareness and our little corner of the universe, our pinpoint on the map. That is us and our reality in this moment. And knowing that we should not sell ourselves short. We should not limit ourselves, because absolute joy, absolute fun, absolute freedom, absolute abundance, knowledge, depth of feeling, whatever we came here to experience, and it's not just one thing. that is our birthright. That is part of being human. And we should just be like all in, right? And we are deserving of that. And so, even if outside the window and outside across the pond or outside wherever it looks and feels and is actually an absolute dumpster fire, you can observe the dumpster fire and, I guess, figure out how much that dumpster fire you want to take on as your own interest, responsibility. You want to take action on it. You want to feel a certain way about it. But if that is not what you came here to experience in reality, maybe to observe, to understand, right? Then you want to, paint your own picture as you want to create your own life as a vessel for the universe to do so. That's what we are as humans, as we are like the universe experiencing itself in this human body, in this human vessel. So when we allow the universe, when we allow the divine to flow through us, it's a much more graceful process, and it is a much more expansive process of experiencing, instead of like trying to have a stranglehold on, I'm going to make this happen, or I'm so frustrated because I don't understand it and I don't know how to make it happen. I don't know all the steps, that it's just like the whole process gets gummed up, and stuck. So get out of your own way. I believe I might have said that last week, which is probably also a message to myself to get out of my own way. So, all right, let us pull an animal oracle card to give us either a final message or to clarify. And then I'm going to close this out because it is 7:57. We've been talking here for almost an hour. So let us see what, we got the snake. Beautiful. And this card actually has two snakes. You see almost like that yin and yang energy, light and dark, masculine, feminine. They are spiraled around what looks like, right, a heart. It's kind of an egg shape. We have, a tree coming out of this, but we see the roots. There's a lot of balanced energy to this. I feel like, number one, this is telling us, let's see here, there's skulls. There's really aren't skulls. It almost looks like skulls, but it definitely looks like an anatomical heart. I feel like that this card is telling us that, first and foremost, things that might seem really like that you're afraid of, or that you find to be kind of like almost more primal, that if you have some kind of instinctual like fear or aversion to that, sometimes that is like you're in fight or flight and actually you need to like avoid danger. But a lot of times that visceral response, or that fear, or that like, I don't want that, or I don't want to look at that, or stay away from me, I've got a fear of snakes, like whatever it is, that really comes from conditioning. That comes from what you have been told, even in utero, what your ancestors maybe have been told of what you should fear, what is evil, what is bad, what is forbidden. Okay. And I feel like we're in a time of reevaluating what what is good and bad, if I want to say it that way. Is there really any bad? I'm just putting that out there. It's all on a spectrum. It's all a lot of grayscale, there. And what do snakes also represent is the kundalini energy, right? Is the rising up of the energy, pulling up that earthly energy all the way up through the heart, the navigational compass of our body, pulling it all the way up through our crown to receive that integration. It's enlightenment, but it's also saying my human self and my spiritual self are one. I'm meeting them at the middle at my heart. That is what humanness is. And it is also, snakes are transformation. Snakes shed their skin more than once a year. And they don't eat, they don't breed, they slow down when they are getting ready to molt. And then once they do, they shed that skin that they have outgrown. It's tattered and old and dull. then they're like the next layer, the next version of them is vibrant and supple and beautiful and bigger than it was before, right? And it's not like it just sheds its skin one time in its lifetime. It does it over and over and over again. And we also experience that, in our lives. We don't just go through one change in our life. We don't have just one transformative era of our life as individuals or as like, a culture or as a group of humans on the planet, right? We're constantly evolving and growing and transforming and changing. That's just what we do. So trust that process and know that in the old dying away, the old being shed, but yeah, there is a time of just kind of like almost like being in, hibernation or just in stillness, just letting that process happen and then allowing ourselves to emerge with that renewed, viewpoint, that renewed energy, vigor, excitement, passion, flow, whatever it is. So I feel that we're being called to embody that energy and trust the process of all the different parts and all the different, parts of the cycle. Like what I was saying about the chickens and the egg, right? It all makes sense now, right? And that's even the hindsight that I was talking about, earlier was just like now that I'm at the end, of our live energy update. And those messages have come through. Then I'm like, oh yes, it all makes sense. It all makes sense. I see why I said that because I'm like, why the hell am I talking about chickens and eggs? And it all makes sense now, right? Find the beauty in all the parts of the cycles and seasons, and know that it's going to happen again too, right? Um, so yeah, that's beautiful. I don't script these. I'm just talking. And I would like to think that I'm channeling a little bit too, right? And just letting myself be a vessel for whatever messages need to come through for me, for whoever happens to be watching this or happens to come across this. And it all helps us navigate through our lives a little more, right? More easily, more gracefully. So beautiful. I like that. I like that very much. That message, what came through. I appreciate you all being here today. And like I said, I will. Oh, something just like hit me as I was like, well, I'm just getting ready to close now. Like I said, next week I'll probably be recording something and uploading that instead of being live, but I will try to do that either by Tuesday night or Wednesday. And I am feeling, thank you very much. Thank you for being along. I am feeling a shift coming for what I've been offering with these lives. Just this whole process. I'm not saying that I'm going to stop doing lives or stop doing videos. I'm not saying that, but I feel like kind of the evolution of just kind of like how much I have grown over the last year, personally and energetically and all the things, how that translates in my life, that I'm feeling like there's a bit of a shift or a different, I don't want to say a different angle, but just kind of like a different purpose that it's like I'm transforming. I'm morphing, into something else, right? Not entirely. You'll recognize me, but it's just yeah, it's a little different. It's the next level, right? So that is exciting to see. How that transpires. Um, but I'm just in the little bit of the in between right now. I don't have all the answers yet, but I'm trusting the process. So thank you for being here, for watching and participating and commenting and all of that. It's been really good for me to stick to this because it was like this creative project. I'm like, oh, I'm going to do these, and then I've been like, oh my god, I've committed to every Wednesday of my life at 7 o'clock, which is fine. I don't have commitment issues, but as a creative, it's just kind of like, but what do I feel inspired to do right now? So anyway, we'll see where this takes me. We'll just see where it takes you. And yeah, I look forward to doing more of these and seeing you all uh virtually, in the upcoming months. But Wednesday evening, live at 7 and or videos coming out by Wednesday. That's kind of the schedule I'm trying to keep. I got to keep myself accountable. Might be more. It might be more often than that. We'll see. So, anyway, you'll have a good night and I will talk to you soon. Thank you. Bye bye.